Hello and welcome. It is the completion of the 4th day of March 2020. My name is Derek and this is the Money Charts channel. Let's take a look at the crypto markets, all bets, trades, and of the like, with each his own risk and their own reward. Before getting into Bitcoin, let's look at Bitcoin dominance. Markets coming back and going to where they came from on both sides of the equation on the bull-bear fence, up or down market, as we can see. After breaking out past this level of resistance in here that we come up to on the Bitcoin dominance to the 66 low change area, which was support here in January, and then now back down to this area of support. Therefore, establishing this level, coming back to the area in which, of course, we came from. On the single hour term time frame, it's just chopping along. We'll have to wait and see, but a lot of these different indicators, I found the mid-bear, mid-bull, the bear shit, and the bullshit. And I'm looking at the sites. They come from, this is the bullshit, which is the bull fund, or markets going higher. And then the lower end coins is another way of putting it. And it's on the FTX. I'm looking at, well, I guess, the elections you can't bet on, at least Americans, Canadians, and many other nations. I'm not going to be making any type of wagers on there, another way of putting it. But this does give me a good indication to what coins are doing. And I can see on here that, okay, this is looking good for that of the altcoins in general. We can see that on the hourly time frame, it's breaking out here, making a nice pattern of higher highs and higher lows from the levels that ended the previous month. And on the bear level, of course, you get the complete opposite on such. You can there you can see on the down level, and then we can get the mid ones. So but I think for the high cap ones, I think the Bitcoin dominance is probably the one to look at for that, as it is anyway. I tried to find a large cap one, which I guess you could say LITECOIN, Ripple, Bitcoin Cash, Tezos now, which is all the top ones. But in this here, the mid bull looking like a nice little breakout pattern, I think. So this is looking pretty good, and this is against the dollar for this one. The next one is the Bitcoin. Let's take a look at it with Fibonacci first from the Coinbase. But the daily chart, yeah. So therefore, with this high, with this low, markets. It's just been in a nice sideways tracement from, of course, this great rally into 2017. And when you look at this without the logarithmic scale, and I just put the linear scale, I mean, it looks like a deep correction. And it was a good one. It was a kind of decent amount of the space that it filled, but only a little bit of it. And it's managed to continue to go forward, getting above this level of resistance, and then, of course, supporting an area. First, we're expecting it to resist, no such doing, and even resisted past the 61.8 to the 76.4 level. And since this point, higher low from this point, okay, and of course this low, higher from all of these ones in there. This high, we got lower high in here, we got lower high in here. So all these higher lows and lower highs, you can draw a trend line up along this level. You can do these downtrend lines. These things are going to burst out pretty good. And I want to draw a line, but I want to do it on a different exchange, because then I don't want to remove those lines, and I'm just going to right click, remove drawings when everything is all said and done. So amongst this, I mean, this isn't going to be the best of lines, but that's pretty good for just a free draw. But an obvious trend line, and the logarithmic scale allows me to draw it like such. So therefore, as far as a downtrend is concerned, we just go ahead and draw something in this. Something's going to give here. And yeah, you break down this. Maybe it could be a failed move before the normal one, meaning if it's going to go up, maybe we go down first and then go up. Or vice versa on a down move. First you go up and then. And that's, we'll say typical amongst it. However, the big situation is break it out of these symmetrical triangles, especially on these long-term ones. And I'd be expecting there's a good chance on the breakout that you could have some wild moves, something that might make this, as great as this was, a possible underwhelming leg or move for a next move, and maybe not. I mean, maybe it comes in, instead of doing this rate of ascent, it does maybe this rate of ascent or something of a lower magnitude. But if it does, and it does, obviously the rate of ascent for this compared to this, you can see that this is just yada yada, that it's going to smaller, of course, that larger ones can come into play, and breaking a resistance line like this. So there's the linear one, which, or logarithmic rather, and is there the linear one, and it's going to be in the same area again. It's, yeah, you can just see how it's just, this would connect to this would be just a barely above, and all these indicators and all of these other things are probably going to scream bullish things as well as we will move in along the way. Now, in an inverted head and shoulders pattern, I'm going to talk about two possibilities. Number one, or two of them actually. Number one, left shoulder, head, and then a possible right shoulder. And even if it bottoms here, you know, this here is, you know, in the same area. I'm still going to be counting this as an inverted, but it has to get above this neckline. And this neckline is like well over 10,000. Now, what is there that could possibly get us to that neckline? And that will have to be an inverted head and shoulders pattern. Hourly time frame. The left shoulder would be this little area here. And left shoulder, head area here. So you have an area where you're breaking down from. So you have a support level. You come up to it, and then you make a lower low in here, and then you come back to the previous neckline, which is what this is, and then you make the higher low to the head, but really a matching low in the area of where this one is. We can see that's the case, and then you come back again to this neckline, which, let me just go put this on auto scale. There we have it. That's what's happening right now as we go on the hourly time frame. We are on hour number 3, or this being 1, then this little pause hour and continuation rally. It is 9 p.m. Eastern time as I'm doing this. And hang on a second, I got to pause the tape because I don't know if there's a 10 o'clock or 10:30 fantasy thing I have to look at. And thankfully it's 10:30. I got lots of time, but I got 12 minutes until I got to get some work done for that. I knew it was that time, 10:30. It's 9:57 as I'm doing this video now. And fantasy sports is something I've picked up on and done really well on. But anyway, breaking above this neckline, I would expect that this thing could at least make a play towards this level in here. And that key word on that, I think, is at least. So you break this, and you probably have a concise move, usually fast. Like here's this is what a concise move would look like. This is a concise move to this point, in whichever form, because there could be 7, 10, 20 different ways, even somewhat types of ways that a market can make a decent sized leg higher. Now let's move on to some of these altcoins, at least the ones that I've been trading. I don't got too many of them, but I got enough where I can enjoy moving the portfolio, the mechanism that I do. The daily chart for Hedera, which comes out, has this movement, 400 Satoshi, falls all the way down to 100 and low change. And then this great move. First you have this one from this side of this low. This is just getting annoying, all these things. I wish I could move this down to here or something anyway. 2 amazing up days up to this high here at 773. And then how these Fibonacci levels are playing, like this is the perfect support. And they're doing it on like almost every time I draw them in there. They seem to always come into fantastic levels of play. Now I see how this is supporting this level that it resisted. And just a phenomenal move so far. But it's been like that under mad decent volatility. Of note, whenever you have an uptrend, especially like it is now, of noticeable but not great rate of ascent. I mean, this was just a huge move higher. But you can easily be drawing some, so like a trend line that's now starting to connect these two peaks. That if you break that, then maybe you could have like a massive move. So we've already established this high within this. I'd be considering, now that we've done this, if we're going to have any moves from this retracement moving forward, that if it breaks that level, then that's what we could see. Like, oh, now we're having like an hour where it's like 25% up that hour. Those types of hours, seeing that type of spark early could be a possible indicator for such a possible event. Now let's move on next, and then these Fibonacci lines doing what they're doing. I put this line in a long time ago, and they just continuously do its thing. So we have support here at the 2816 barrier, and it continuously resists for several amounts of time at the next one, 3246. Does have this one decent breakout attempt on the final day of February, but obviously unable to hold it. But it did hold after this resistance in here. Comes down, higher lowing this level here. Then those shorter term levels of resistance, it got above 2 in one shot, getting above this one, 3192, and then the 3246. But on this go here, after supporting it, it managed to break the most important level. And here we can see that we had a hit here on the 26th. We had a hit again on the 29th. We hit it again March the 3rd. Even came close March the 4th. So when that March 4th date, we can see how it congested there for a couple hours. And just looking at it as just before this hours, you can see how the setup for this to go higher was not a surprise, as that's 2 periods of holding and staying in an area where it never did that before during the last many days, because it gets up here on the 26th again, but it pulls back quickly. It barely got above it that day, and on here it only had 1 period where it really stayed above this point. It had this big red candle down, and then all it did was resist it. This day here, big move higher, rejected it fast. So now it's not rejecting those levels for 2 consecutive periods. So when this hour was over at this time, it shouldn't come to any surprise of, oh, there we go. And now we see a move. How are we going to react to a move to this big fib level? Where, well, is it resistance? And is it doing what it's supposed to do? And yeah, resistance is pretty much stopped its trend of going higher, and that's what's happened. It's pierced above it extra. That's a normality these days, and every days with these cryptos, it seems. One completed period, 2 completed period, and now of course starting a new one, 10:02 p.m. Eastern time, and this is looking very productive. This doesn't say, oh, it's going to definitely go up. It hasn't had the rejection yet, and if it does, we got the 18 that's rising. We got all these previous levels of resistance, and how big it is now to, I suppose, even holding down to 3246, but just this upper area here of 3369, especially if there's going to be any short-term movements before the break of this level. And that's, of course, if we have that break. 3-hour term time frame, we can see if it does. I'd be looking for this to go to previous high. And on the daily time frame, what I'm seeing here is just a beautiful situation. From this breakout point here in early January or mid-January, comes up to this high, and then now you have a correctionary move, some extra extended or an okay amount of time within the 18. Now if this breaks out above in the spot like this, we're just think it have another good move, and most likely probably will. Next up is Theta, and this thing has just been poised and poised and poised for a while, having a little bit of a breakout here. Well, first we had this one on February 13th. That was a few weeks ago. But it's been holding this within the 18. It's a rising 18 very, very well. Had an attempt on February the 24th to get out, but immediately rejecting it, but supporting it extremely well. Finding support on the lows for several days. And then here on March the 2nd and 3rd, having a breakout, getting above, reaching this previous level of resistance and this Fibonacci level at 1528. Holding and staying above the 18 average of highs right now. And again, this is just one of those poised things. If this thing ultimately from this move doesn't do well, it rejects it in here, then this all from this failed move, maybe we come down and do test these lows. But this to me does look as if this is ready and poised to break out. And I like how this has been stair-stepping higher from these key lows. We got this one here, then this one. It's taking longer than I thought. I think that's the way I say it. I can't say I'd be surprised the way it is, because early in the video, I can't say I'd be surprised, because like why I say concise move, because there's 4, 5, 6, whatever different ways that this thing can break out, and so many ways. And right now the bullish trends to me aren't failing at this point. Thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great day. Bye bye.